Thank you for launching this web tutorial on the fabric data that's part of the FCC's new Broadband Data Collection, or BDC. I'm Jean Cadieux, Chair of the FCC's Broadband Data Task Force. This webinar is a tutorial designed to introduce you to the location fabric and to demonstrate some approaches to working with the fabric data. This tutorial is part of a broader set of technical assistance materials that the FCC will make available to broadband service providers, governmental entities, consumers, and other stakeholders who will contribute data and information into the BDC to help improve the FCC's mapping of broadband availability throughout the United States. Thanks again for taking time to watch this tutorial and for your effort to be prepared to submit broadband data as of June 30th. I will turn it over to Stephen Tolbert, a wireline communications engineer in the Office of Economics and Analytics, to get started. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you, Jean. Let's start with a quick overview. I'll cover such topics as what the fabric, including the preliminary fabric, is and is not, how to access it, and how to use it in a location list versus Polygon filing in the BDC. I'll also talk about what you can do with the fabric data after downloading it, what precisely you are looking at once you open the file, how do you work with the data, and how you can align that data with existing data, such as latitude, longitude, customer lists, map overlay, and so forth. A preliminary objective of the BDC is to establish a broadband serviceable location fabric. What is that? Well, it is a common data set of all locations in the United States and its territories that have or could have broadband internet access service. The Broadband Data Act and the FCC's rules require that the fabric serve as the foundation upon which all fixed broadband availability data be reported and overlaid. It serves as the denominator as we work to determine where broadband service is and where it is not. The fabric allows both the FCC and you to work from a standardized list of locations, but note, fabric will continue to be updated and refined over time. A revised version will be released prior to each semi-annual BDC filing window for use at that time, so you should always ensure you are working with the most current version of the production fabric. A preliminary version of the fabric was made available by CastQuest Associates, the FCC's contractor for developing the fabric, to fixed broadband service providers in April 2022. This preliminary version is meant to help filers to develop and test methods for aligning their data on where they make fixed broadband service available within the fabric data. The preliminary fabric has been made available to the FCC Form 477 filers that submitted fixed broadband deployment data as of June 30th, 2021. CastQuest has sent emails with instructions on how to access the data to the email addresses of the certifying officials associated with those 477 filings. If you are a provider who did not file Form 477 data as of June 30th, 2021, but will be filing data as of June 30th, 2022 in the BDC, please email nbfsupport@castquest.com to obtain access. The preliminary fabric is just that, a preliminary opportunity to see the type of data that will be included in the production version of the fabric to be released for use in submitting fixed availability data as of June 30th, 2022. It will change in material ways before the production version is available. Please note that the FCC and CastQuest are still refining the fabric locations and associated data for the production version. So locations included or not included in the preliminary fabric may be irrelevant for purposes of the production version to be used and for reporting data as of June 30th. The preliminary fabric is made up of a set of fields or columns that match those that will be in the forthcoming production version. The FCC and CastQuest are continuing to refine the fabric's location data to meet FCC requirements. The production fabric used for the June 30 collection will therefore differ from the preliminary fabric because different methodologies were used to create the two data sets. For example, some points identified as broadband serviceable locations in the preliminary fabric may not be considered BSLs in the initial production dataset. The production dataset may also contain BSLs not included in the preliminary fabric. Other location information such as coordinates, latitude and longitude, estimated unit count, or addresses will also change. One more thing to note, the location IDs, the 10-digit unique identifier for each location will be different. In the preliminary version of the fabric, they start with a 9, but in the production version, they will start with a 1. The location IDs used in the preliminary fabric cannot be submitted in the BDC system. Filers must use the location IDs from the production version. We encourage providers to access the preliminary fabric and use it to help create processes for preparing their fixed availability data. But make sure you use the production version to compile your June 30 availability data for filing in the BDC system. Let's look at the key fields in the fabric dataset. First, the location ID. This is the unique commission-issued identifier for each location in the data. As mentioned earlier, the location ID used in the preliminary fabric will be different from the location ID in the production version. Next, the geographic coordinates. These are the latitude and longitude associated with each location. These coordinates are within the boundary or footprint of the building that serves as the basis for a location. The address for each location is made up of 5 fields: the primary or street address, the city, state, zip code, and 4-digit zip suffix. Note that some locations in the fabric do not have an address associated with them, so some or all of these fields may be null. The unit cost lists the number of separate units in a building. It is especially important for buildings with multiple units, such as an apartment or condominium. The unit cost field is null or empty in the preliminary fabric. Next, the BSL flag. The fabric will include both broadband serviceable locations, BSLs, and non-BSLs, and this field indicates whether a location is a BSL or not. Unlike the production fabric, this flag is set to true for all locations in the preliminary fabric. The data included in this field is likely to change for many locations between the preliminary and production versions of the fabric. Some points identified in the preliminary fabric may not be considered BSLs in the production fabric and vice versa. The building type code field indicates whether a location is business, residential, or both business and residential. Finally, the data set includes information on certain census geographies, including the county and census block on which a location falls. Now we'll go through the steps on how to access the fabric. If you're an entity that filed fixed broadband deployment data on Form 477 as of June 30th, 2021, you should have received an email from CastQuest inviting you to access the preliminary fabric. If that is the case, you can create your user account with CastQuest by clicking the link in the email. If you are a fixed broadband provider that did not file Form 477 data as of June 30th last year, but will be filing availability data as of June 30th, 2022 in the BDC, please contact mbfsupport@castquest.com. The account that you set up to access the preliminary fabric is a unique account and not connected to any FCC accounts. Once the account is established, you will either sign a license on behalf of your company or submit contact information for the individual who has the authority to sign the agreement. More on that in a minute. Note that each license is issued to an entity or company and at the holding company level when one company has multiple affiliates or subsidiaries. If you are signing a license on your company's behalf, you will need to enter the following information in an online license request form: your name, title, principal place of business address, and phone number. You will also need to provide the name and email address of an administrator who can add other recipients or counties covered by the license, as well as the contact information for the individuals at your company who will be able to access and download the data file. If you do not have authorization to sign the license agreement for your company, you should still create an account through CastQuest Online Help Desk. From there, you can submit the contact information for the individual who has the authority to sign a license agreement by using the Add Licensee form available in the Request Your Data section of the site. You will need to enter the name and email address of the person authorized to sign the license. After submitting the Add Licensee form, you won't immediately be able to proceed further, but within 1 to 2 days, the individual named in the form as the authorized to sign the license will receive an email from CastQuest requesting confirmation. Once that confirmation is received, the person will be able to set up their own account with CastQuest and submit a license request form. If CastQuest discovers errors or incomplete information on a license request form, it will request clarification. After any errors or omissions are corrected, CastQuest will prepare the license and email a validation notification with a link to the electronic license agreement. Once the license agreement is e-signed by the authorized individual at the company, CastQuest will also sign the license agreement and then send a copy of the completed agreement to the company with 1 to 3 business days. At that time, CastQuest will also prepare the individualized fabric data file for the company and email it to all of the individuals listed on the license request form. If you have questions about the process of obtaining access to the fabric or the fabric license agreement, please email CastQuest at nbfsupport@castquest.com. If you are a fixed broadband service provider who has not submitted Form 477 data in the past or require access to fabric data in order to submit availability data in the BDC, you can reach out to CastQuest at that email address. The data source that CastQuest uses to generate the data in the fabric include a mix of parcel data, other land and tax record, satellite imagery, address databases, and other available sources deemed helpful to determine the locations throughout the United States where fixed broadband service can be installed. You may submit fixed availability data in one of 2 formats in the BDC system, either a list of locations or a polygon coverage area, and the fabric is used differently in preparing your data depending on which format you choose. Note that you must choose only one format for your fixed availability data in each BDC filing. If you choose to submit availability data as a list of locations, then your file must contain data on all of the locations to which you currently provide fixed broadband service or can provide fixed broadband service with a standard broadband installation, as identified in the FCC rules. The locations reported must be based on the fabric locations, and the file must list locations by the fabric location ID, the unique FCC location identifier. Your file must be in CSV format and conform to Section 6.1 of the BDC Availability Data Specification. If you choose to submit availability data as a coverage polygon rather than a list of locations, your data file must be in an accepted GIS format with polygon geometries and associated data attributes. Please see the accompanying tutorial on fixed availability data, as well as Section 6.2 of the BDC Availability Data Specification for more information. Coverage polygons must also encompass only locations to which you either currently have a broadband connection in service or could perform a standard broadband installation. Therefore, if you choose this option, you can use GIS software to overlay the fabric data on your footprint to see which locations fall inside of it. We also note that after you upload Polygon GIS data in the BDC system, you will be able to see which locations from the fabric overlap your fixed coverage area. I'm now going to turn to a description of ways you can align your availability data to the production version of the fabric. You can apply these approaches using the preliminary fabric data as a way to prepare for the type of data processing you will need to undertake to match your data to the production fabric. Let me repeat and reemphasize what I said a few minutes ago. Use the preliminary fabric to develop and test methods to align your data with the fabric, but be sure to use the most recent production version, not the preliminary version, to compile your availability data for your BDC filing. Many of the locations and all of the location IDs will change. So how do you open the fabric data file after you download it from CastQuest? The fabric file is in comma separated value format, so the most popular program you can use is Microsoft Excel. You will first need to unzip the folder containing the fabric CSV file by right-clicking the file and selecting Extract All. Next, select the destination for storage of the unzipped file. The pop-up window contains the unzipped file, and you can double-click to open the file in Excel, if that is your default program. What are you looking at now that it's open? The Excel table should look like something like the one shown here. There are other programs you can use to open your CSV, such as Windows Notepad or TextEdit, or other spreadsheet software programs. You can do this by right-clicking on the CSV file and select Open With, then selecting your program of choice, just such as Notepad. How do you work with the data? You may want to perform a procedure known as text matching, which compares fabric locations with your address location list. This can help you identify the fabric location ID associated with an address list you have created for locations that you serve. The idea here is to try to match the address information in the fabric with lists of addresses to which you can or do provide service that you have compiled internally. You can do this several ways in Excel by using a combination of the concat function, ampersand symbol, and text join function before using the VLOOKUP function. You can also use an add-on called Fuzzy Lookup to find fuzzy or imperfect matches. More information about text matching can be found in the BDC Help Center, and a link will be provided at the end of this presentation. The article is called Text Matching in Excel. The first step is to pull together the address primary, state, city, zip, and zip subtext fields associated with the Fabric location ID into a single column. This will make comparison to your existing list easier. Using the text join function, you can combine the text from multiple ranges and/or strings and include a specified delimiter between each text value. To use text join in the Fabric, 1. Insert a new column to the left of the location ID column. 2. Type equals text join, open parentheses, and then add a comma delimiter between quotation marks. Type another comma and specify if you want to ignore empty cells. Enter true. Add a comma and then add the cells you wish to combine and end with a close parentheses. This can be combined with other methods like using ampersand and removing spaces to get the correct formatting. After formatting your data the way you want it, use the VLOOKUP function to match the addresses in your data to the location ID in the Fabric. Add a new worksheet to the file and copy over your list of addresses. When you copy your list, make sure that the full address, including city, state, and zip code, are in a single column in the worksheet. In an empty column, type equals VLOOKUP and an open parentheses. Then click the first cell in your address column. This is what you will be using as a reference to look up the addresses in the Fabric data. Then add a comma and enter the range, column and cells, of cells containing the Fabric addresses. Add another comma and enter the range of cells from the location ID column. Add one final column, and if you want to return an approximate or exact match, add a 1 for true or a 0 for false, and then end with a closed parentheses. Drag or double-click the square in the bottom right corner of the cell to this formula to fill it in for all rows in the list. If your data produces a lot of unmatched addresses, you can use the Fuzzy Lookup, an add-on from Microsoft Excel, instead of VLOOKUP, to fuzzy join similar rows between your data and the Fabric. A fuzzy join are joins between two data sets that don't match exactly. The matching is robust for a wide variety of errors, including spelling mistakes, abbreviations, synonyms, and added missing data, and will produce a similarity column after the matches to show you how well they fit. First, install the Fuzzy Lookup add-in in Excel by downloading the installation file, opening it, and following the install instructions. You will need to restart Excel to find the Fuzzy Lookup tab. Prepare both your data and the Fabric by formatting it into tables. Highlight the data and go to Tab Insert and click Table. Please note both the Fabric and your address list must be in the same Excel workbook. Next, you can create your Fuzzy Lookup by opening a new worksheet or select a column where you want your matches to go. First, click on Fuzzy Lookup in the new Fuzzy Lookup tab in Excel. Next, select the two tables you are using and highlight the columns from each table to base your matches on, and then add them to the match columns. Once you have your columns picked out to match against, select and unselect your output columns so that only those that you want in the output table are selected. Click Go. Finally, you can check your results. The similarity column will be the last column in the new match table. A score of 1.0 is a perfect match. Decreasing scores indicate a less perfect match was made. As you can see in the video where our data has street spelled out, but the Fabric has it abbreviated to ST. The address still matched with 0.9129 similarity. Ways to map the data. Another way to match Fabric location IDs to your coverage area is by displaying the locations using their coordinates on a map. By comparing this map to your existing service area maps, you can identify BSLs where you can or do provide service. For this video, we are using QGIS 3 for our GIS software to map the location Fabric data, starting with the CSV file provided. Open QGIS and select the Layer menu. Hover the cursor over Add Layer and select Add Delimited Text Layer. Select the file from the file name field in the pop-up window. Ensure that the latitude and longitude coordinates are correct based on the Geometry Definition tab. The y-coordinate is the latitude, the x-coordinate is the longitude. You'll know right away if you reverse them since your points will be nowhere near where you'd expect. Make sure you select ESPG 4326 WGS84 for Geometry CRS. Click Add. Now the CSV should display as points on the display. Add a base map by selecting XYZ tiles in the browser pane to make a connection to a URL, or by selecting OpenStreetMap to confirm the locations are correct. From here, you can select certain points by clicking the Select tool highlighted in the image. You can draw a box around the points. Open the attribute table by right-clicking the layer and select Open Attributes. You can also manually click each row of the attribute table to select specific points or run a filter. You can also select fields to filter out. So here are a few more things to note when using the Fabric to prepare your availability data for the BDC. 1. Use the Fabric to generate availability data by location, not by census block. One goal of broadband data collection is to have more precise and granular data on broadband availability down to the individual location for fixed service. Therefore, filers should not overlay the census blocks reported in FCC Form 477 on the Fabric and report all of those locations. They must determine which locations, not which census blocks they serve. 2. Use the preliminary data to prepare your processes for generating fixed availability data, either by location list or Polygon, for the BDC. Make sure you download and use the production Fabric data when creating the data you will submit in the BDC system. The production data will differ significantly from the preliminary data. If you plan to submit a list of locations for your fixed broadband availability data in the BDC system, you must use the Fabric points as the basis for that list and that file. If you plan to submit a coverage polygon, the Fabric can be helpful in determining and validating your footprint, but the GIS file you upload should not include Fabric point data, only polygon data. This concludes our tutorial on what the Fabric is and how to work with Fabric data. Thanks again for taking time to watch this tutorial and for your effort to be ready to submit fixed broadband availability data as of June 30th, 2022. If you have not already done so, we urge you to watch our 2 companion tutorials for an overview of the BDC's fixed availability filing requirements and the supporting data that fixed providers are required to submit. Please remember to periodically check our website at www.fcc.gov/broadbanddata for links to commission orders, notices, tutorials, FAQs, and other resources. Questions about the BDC filing requirement may be submitted to the FCC by using the Submit a Request button on the Help Center from the link on that webpage. Thank you again for your effort to prepare for the upcoming filing.